I never thought I'd fill my own swimming pool with concrete. But when the HOA fined me $500 for swimming after 9 p.m. in my own backyard, something snapped. They wanted to control my pool? Fine. I'd let them pay for it, all $12,500 worth. Before watching full story, comment below from where you watching. Also like and subscribe for more Karen stories. I stared at the fine notice in disbelief. $500 for unauthorized use of personal pool during quiet hours. My hands trembled with anger as I read the letter for the third time. The Sunshine Estates Homeowners Association had gone too far this time. My name is Daniel Morgan. After 15 years of hard work as an engineer, I had finally saved enough to buy my dream home in Sunshine Estates. The main selling point? A beautiful backyard pool where I could relax after long days. The real estate agent had assured me that the pool was private property, fully included in my purchase. 3 months after moving in, I discovered the cruel reality of living under our HOA president, Karen Williams. She ruled Sunshine Estates with an iron fist, issuing fines for grass half an inch too tall and mailboxes painted the wrong shade of beige. The previous weekend, I had invited a few colleagues over for a modest barbecue that ended with a late swim. We weren't loud, just a few friends enjoying my pool on a warm summer night. Yet somehow, Karen claimed we had violated the community's 9 p.m. quiet hours policy. I took a deep breath and called the HOA office. Sunshine Estates HOA, this is Karen, the sharp voice answered. Karen, this is Daniel Morgan from 452 Palmetto Drive. I just received a fine for using my own pool. There must be a mistake. No mistake, Mr. Morgan, she replied coldly. Section 14, paragraph C of the bylaws clearly states that outdoor recreational facilities, including private pools, cannot be used after 9 p.m. due to noise concerns. But it's my pool on my property that I paid for, I said, trying to keep my voice level. You agreed to abide by all HOA regulations when you purchased your home, she replied. Payment is due within 30 days or additional penalties will apply. The line went dead before I could respond. I spent the evening poring over the HOA bylaws. Sure enough, buried in the 85-page document was the rule Karen had cited. But something else caught my eye, a clause stating that the HOA was responsible for maintaining and repairing all community recreational facilities to ensure property values remained high. A plan began forming in my mind. The next morning, I called Victor, a contractor friend who had helped with my home renovations. Victor, how quickly can you seal a pool? I asked. Seal a pool? You mean like winterize it? No, I mean permanently seal it. Concrete cap, waterproofed, the works. There was a pause on the other end. About 3 days. But why would you want to? I'll explain when you get here. How does tomorrow sound? 2 days later, Victor and his crew arrived with cement mixers and equipment. I had already drained the pool. By noon, they had begun pouring concrete over my once beautiful oasis. By the weekend, my backyard featured a large, flat concrete slab where my pool had been. On Monday morning, I walked into the HOA office with a thick envelope. I need to file some maintenance paperwork, I told the receptionist. Karen emerged from her office, eyeing me suspiciously. What paperwork? I smiled pleasantly. Since the HOA considers my pool a community recreational facility subject to usage restrictions, I've sealed it permanently as it was in need of extensive repairs. According to Section 22, paragraph B, the HOA is responsible for all costs associated with maintaining community recreational facilities. I handed her the envelope containing Victor's bill for $12,500 and photos documenting the pool's conversion. Karen's face turned crimson. This is preposterous. Your pool is private property. Not according to the fine you issued, I replied calmly. You can't have it both ways, Karen. Either the pool is private and I can use it whenever I want, or it's a community facility and you're responsible for its maintenance. This won't stand, she sputtered. The board will never approve this expense. That's fine, I said with a shrug. I'll be happy to explain at the next community meeting how you're selectively enforcing rules to collect fines while ignoring maintenance responsibilities. I'm sure our neighbors will be interested to hear about this contradiction. Word spread quickly through Sunshine Estates. By the time the monthly HOA meeting arrived, nearly every homeowner was present, a stark contrast to the usual sparse attendance. Karen tried to gloss over my agenda item, but several neighbors called her out. I moved to discuss Daniel Morgan's pool situation, said Mrs. Jenkins, an elderly woman who had previously received fines for unapproved garden gnomes. For the next hour, I presented my case, showing everyone the fine, the contradictory bylaws, and photos of my sealed pool. Other homeowners began sharing similar stories of Karen's tyrannical enforcement. "I propose we put this to a vote," said Mr. Patel from across the street. "Either we acknowledge that personal pools are private property not subject to quiet hours restrictions, or we accept that they're community facilities and fully fund Mr. Morgan's repairs." The vote was nearly unanimous. My pool was private property, the fine was rescinded, and a motion passed to review all bylaws for similar contradictions. But I wasn't finished. "Since we've established that my pool was indeed private property, I'll need compensation to restore it to its original condition," I said. Karen's eyes widened. "You chose to seal your pool. That's on you." After being fined for using my own property, I reminded her. "I simply took steps to ensure I wouldn't be fined again by eliminating the pool entirely. Now that we've clarified the rules, I should be made whole." After heated debate, the board approved $15,000 for restoration, $500 more than it had cost to seal the pool. 2 weeks later, Karen resigned as HOA president. The new board, led by Mr. Patel, immediately began revising the bylaws to be clearer and more reasonable. As for me, I used the money to install a new, larger pool with improved features, including underwater lighting for nighttime swims. I also added a privacy fence and soundproofing landscaping, just to be considerate. The best part? The first guests I invited to enjoy my new pool were all the neighbors who had supported me against Karen's reign of terror. We swam well past 9 p.m., laughing and celebrating our victory against HOA overreach. 6 months later, I received a letter from the new HOA board. My heart skipped a beat as I opened it, old anxieties bubbling up. Inside was a certificate naming me Neighbor of the Year for standing up against unfair practices and helping create a more reasonable community governance system. That evening, as I floated in my pool watching the stars come out well after 9 p.m., I couldn't help but smile. Sometimes the best revenge isn't just winning, it's changing the entire game. Karen still lives in Sunshine Estates, though she keeps a much lower profile these days. Occasionally I see her glancing at my backyard when she walks her dog. I always wave and invite her to join us for a swim. She never accepts, but the invitation remains open. After all, a community is stronger when everyone feels welcome, even after 9 p.m. 2 years after my victory against the HOA, Sunshine Estates had transformed into a much friendlier neighborhood. Mr. Patel proved to be an excellent president, focusing on building community rather than enforcing petty rules. The annual neighborhood picnic was approaching, and I had volunteered to host it at my home. My new pool area, with its expanded deck and outdoor kitchen, was perfect for large gatherings. The morning of the picnic, I was setting up tables when a familiar figure appeared at my fence gate. "Karen," I said, genuinely surprised. She looked different, more relaxed, her usual stern expression softened. "Hello, Daniel. I thought you might need some help setting up." I hesitated but then nodded. "Sure, I could use an extra hand." As we arranged chairs, Karen cleared her throat. "I owe you an apology, Daniel. I was overzealous as HOA president." "That's one way to put it," I replied, but without malice. "After I resigned, I had a lot of time to reflect," she continued. "My husband Frank always said I needed to lighten up, but I was so focused on maintaining property values that I forgot what makes a neighborhood valuable: the people." I hadn't known Karen was married. Come to think of it, I realized I knew almost nothing about her beyond her role as the HOA tyrant. "Frank passed away the year before you moved in," she said, noticing my surprise. "The pool rules were actually his idea back when he was on the board. He was concerned about safety after a neighbor's child nearly drowned at a late-night party." The revelation hit me hard. Her enforcement hadn't been purely about control, there was a real concern behind it, even if she had taken it too far. "I'm sorry about Frank," I said, "but there are better ways to address safety concerns than arbitrary fines." She nodded. "You're right. That's why I've been working with Mr. Patel on the new safety program, pool alarms and proper fencing requirements instead of time restrictions." As the neighbors began arriving for the picnic, Karen integrated surprisingly well. She brought homemade cookies that were actually delicious, and she seemed to know everyone's children by name. Later that evening, as the party was winding down, I found Karen sitting alone by the edge of my pool, her feet dangling in the water. "First time in the infamous pool?" I asked, sitting beside her. She laughed softly. "Actually, Frank and I had the first pool in Sunshine Estates. We used to host midnight swims for the original homeowners." "What happened?" "Life happened," she sighed. Frank got sick, I got bitter, and somewhere along the way I convinced myself that enforcing rules would keep everything from changing. The irony wasn't lost on either of us. Change isn't always bad, I offered. No, she agreed, looking around at the neighbors chatting and laughing. Sometimes it's exactly what's needed. As the sun set, someone turned on my new pool lights, illuminating the water with a soft blue glow. Mr. Patel's daughter asked if the kids could swim, and soon the pool was filled with splashing and giggles, well after 9 p.m. Karen watched with a smile I hadn't seen before. You know, the concrete idea was actually quite clever. It was either that or move, I admitted. I'm glad you didn't, she said sincerely. Sunshine Estates is better with you here. The following week, Karen listed her house for sale. She was moving to Florida to be closer to her sister, she told everyone. Before she left, she stopped by with a housewarming gift for me, although I'd been in my home for over 2 years. It was a custom pool sign that read, Morgan's Midnight Swim Club, open 24 hours, HOA approved. Just a little reminder, she said with a wink. After she left, I hung the sign proudly by the pool. It became a neighborhood joke, then a tradition, and eventually an actual club. Every full moon, neighbors gather at my pool for a midnight swim, just like Karen and Frank used to host in the early days of Sunshine Estates. Sometimes revenge isn't about getting even. Sometimes it's about breaking down walls, or in my case building over pools, to create space for something better to emerge. My concrete slab revenge had done more than win me compensation. It had cracked the foundation of unnecessary rules and poured something stronger in its place. Community. And that is worth far more than $15,000 or the satisfaction of proving a point. Though I have to admit both were pretty sweet too.